Sandra is driving at 60 miles per hour. How many hours will it take her to drive 200 miles? This problem involves a rate. A rate indicates a relationship between two different kinds of units. The word per is often used to express a rate. I can see the word per right here in our problem. When a rate is expressed using the word per, there are always units in front of the per, the miles here, and also units behind the per, the word hour here. The rate involved in this word problem is 60 miles per hour. Now, before we solve this word problem, let's talk a little bit about what this rate means. 60 miles per hour means that Sandra drives 60 miles in 1 hour. If she drove for another hour, she would drive another 60 miles. And if she drove for a third hour, she would drive 60 more miles. Let's represent this with a picture. So suppose Sandra starts out and drives 60 miles. That's going to take her 1 hour. If she drives another 60 miles, that's going to take another hour. And if she drives 60 more miles, that's going to take a third hour. And she could continue on and on in this way, driving at 60 miles per hour. If Sandra drives just 1 hour, let's think of this as her car. She's going to drive from here to here in 1 hour. That's a total of 60 miles. We can represent this in the following way. We can take the rate, 60 miles per hour, and multiply by that 1 hour that she traveled, and we get her distance of 60 miles. Now, if Sandra travels for 2 hours, she'll travel a distance of 60 times 2, or 120 miles. We can also express this using the rate in the following way. 60 miles per hour times 2 hours gives us 60 times 2 is 120 miles that she's traveled. If Sandra travels a total of 3 hours of time, she'll have traveled a distance of 60 times 3, or 180 miles. Let's express that with the rate. 60 miles per hour times 3 hours equals 60 times 3 is 180, 180 miles. And we could continue this pattern on and on. But the observation that I'd like to make involves just looking at the units, not the numbers. Let's copy the units below here. If we take miles per hour and multiply by a certain number of hours, we're going to get a result that gives us a certain number of miles. We call this the unit equation that's involved with the rate here. Miles per hour times hours equals miles. If you take any rate at all and multiply by units represented by the word after the per, you're always going to end up with an answer whose units are given by the word in front of the per of the rate. Now we're going to take this unit equation, miles per hour times hours equals miles, and use this to help us solve our problem. Let's read over our problem once again. Sandra is driving at 60 miles per hour. There's our rate. How many hours will it take her to drive 200 miles? So we know Sandra's going to drive 200 miles, and we want to figure out how many hours that will take her. We'll start by writing the unit equation for this rate. Now remember, our rate is 60 miles per hour. I'm not going to write the 60. I'm not going to write the number. I'm just going to write the words at first. Miles per hour. If I take a rate and multiply by units that are given by the word after the per, that means hours, I end up with a quantity whose units are given by the word in front of the per, miles here. Notice that in this unit equation, hours is represented by the words on each side of the times sign, and miles are the same at the extremities, at each end of this equation. Now let's fill in some values. Miles per hour, we know here in this problem, Sandra's driving at 60 miles per hour. Times hours, we don't know. That's what we're trying to find. So I'm going to write a box. How many hours is what we're trying to figure out? Equals miles. We know Sandra's going to drive 200 miles. So what I've done is I've set up a missing number statement. 60 times box equals 200. Because I'm missing a multiplier here in this statement, I need to divide to find the missing multiplier. I am going to set up my division by writing the answer to the multiplication problem first, that's the 200, divided by the multiplier that I have, that's the 60. 200 divided by 60 is going to give us the number of hours that we're looking for in this problem. Now there are a lot of ways I could do this division. I could do long division. I could write these whole numbers as fractions and do fraction division. But because I'm dividing whole numbers here, I can also go right to a fraction form. I can write the first number, 200, on top in the numerator over the second number, the 60, in the denominator. 200 divided by 60 is the same as 200 over 60. Now we need to reduce that fraction. Let's go ahead and do that. 200 I can write as 20 times 10 over 60 is 6 times 10. And I can cancel a 10 above and below. I can break 20 down further now as 2 times 10 over 6 I can write as 2 times 3. and I can cancel a 2 above and below. Now, I could break that 10 down further, but that 10 would become 2 times 5. I cannot break the 3 down further. There's no number that's going to cancel with that 3. So 10 over 3, that's a reduced fraction. I have a larger number on top, though, in this fraction. That means this fraction represents more than one whole. I'd like to divide that out, 10 divided by 3, to get the mixed numeral form for this answer. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. And the 1 remainder goes over the 3 out in front. So my final answer here is 3 1/3. Now we were looking for how many hours. So that's 3 1/3 hours. We need our units on this answer. 3 1/3 hours is how long it takes Sandra to drive those 200 miles. And we're done. So I'm going to get in the car with Sandra, and we're going to take off. So long, everybody.